So I suppose would you start by maybe telling us your name and what you do?
Sure. My name is Louise Kiely, and I work as a casting director, and with my team and I, we cast film, television and commercials.
Amazing. And can you tell us about your background, about your training?
Of course. I grew up in Maynooth and South Africa, and when I was in South Africa I was very much involved in drama through school, and then came back to university in Ireland and did law in UCC and was part of the Dramat Society there, and then auditioned for the Gaiety School and did the 2-year full-time course there, and that was my education up until I was about 24.
Nice. And then what brought you into casting then?
So basically, I was part of a cooperative acting agency. So what that is actors representing themselves and others. So it sort of taught me the business side of it. So we'd be kind of negotiating deals and doing contracts and all that stuff. And considering the background that I have, and not knowing this consciously, I suppose, but I found myself really interested in that as well. And then of course just decided to become a casting director, which I was saying earlier, kind of fell into it by accident and learned fast, kind of on the fly. But what I discovered very early on is that casting is absolutely a mixture of creative, working with character, working with actors, knowing, kind of feeling actors' vibes and all that stuff, but it's also incredibly administrative, and you have to be very organised because you're dealing with big money, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And people's salaries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of be able to read the fine print.
And balance that intuition from against the
both
practical side.
Yeah, exactly. It's both sides. Yeah.
And so what drew you? I suppose you kind of answered that in there as well. But what would have drawn you to that again? Maybe.
The short answer is I don't know what drew me to it, except my friend was like, "This would be a great thing to do." So I was like, "Yeah, great." At the time, acting was very infrequent. I was doing a lot of waitressing, a lot of clowning, whatever we can do. I was like handing out Tato on Grafton Street. Do you know what I mean? And then she said, "Let's try this," and we did, and very, very quickly into it, I went, "Oh, this is amazing. I really like it, and I don't miss acting at all."
Amazing.
I know.
What was
I was
your first
really
job?
surprised. My first job was a short film that we were talking today with the lovely lady Liz Gill. She was directing a film-based short called Silence, and the producer got in touch. We sort of sent out an email and went, "Hey, we're this person," and he went, "Look, we're looking for a casting director." So that was our very first job. That was in about 3 or 4 days after saying we were casting directors. So we just sort of kind of put a day together and hoped for the best.
And in at the deep end.
In at the deep end.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were mistakes made in the beginning? How did you?
Were mistakes made? Not anything that was like nothing kind of contracty, or do you know what I mean? Because we were very honest, I suppose, with the producer at the outset, going, "Okay, this is the first time I've done this. Do you know what I mean? You need to tell us exactly how people are going to be booked." And also, having had the Castaway cooperative background, we had an idea that you don't just tell somebody you got a part and dance around. Do you know what I mean? There's a negotiation and a kind of making sure everybody's on it. So not really. No, there was the first feature film I did, I thought the minimum daily rate was something, and it was like €30 more. So there was like a little shortfall that I'd given to the production company, and somebody got, not the production, but somebody got a little bit kind of, and I went, yeah, totally, I was completely wrong, I just didn't know. And they made that adjustment.
So when you're honest and you tell people what level you're at, people are really accepting, aren't they?
Of course. There's something, well, it's like, you just have to put your hand in the air and go, "Okay, that was me." Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then it's fine, you just find a solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you go about casting from a brief then? What would your steps?
Okay, so basically what we do is we read the script, we break it down, actors, special extras. We don't do the special extras or the extras, we do all the cast. So depending on the size of the script, you might need sort of talent attached, which would be kind of probably attached at that stage anyway if you have a shoot date. So you might have 1 or 2 cast already involved, and so that was always great, because then you can tell people this person's going to play this and this person's going to play this. We do character breakdowns in collaboration with the production company. As the movies get bigger, you tend to use the synopsis that they'll have in their treatment. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of defer much more to what the producers have already kind of put there.
I've been in here before.
So yeah, and then we sort of put the breakdown out and get suggestions in and put lists together, and depending on the actor, depending on the part, depending on whatever you're looking for, we might read people, which would be auditions, or we might offer, or we might organise. So it's just a case of starting at the beginning, doing a huge amount of groundwork, filtering it all through, presenting who you believe to be correct for certain roles, and then the director and you, and obviously the producer, very, very much collaborate to the point at which you have somebody there and you offer them and you agree.
Amazing.
That's kind of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We keep going, so we kind of. So what qualities would you say are important in a casting director?
I think you have to be organised, intuitive as a human person. You have to be able to kind of connect with somebody on a level which is not just words, I suppose. You have to be able to kind of feel their vibe, because I always say, if you match the character, if you match the spirit of the actor with the spirit of the character, it's like a winning combination, because then they're just free to kind of find wonderfulness. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a major stretch if there's something in that person. So you have to kind of investigate humans, and obviously having the acting background is good because you feel the character, you know what I mean? And then of course you have to be organised as well. So, but it's all about like those weird words that don't mean anything, like feeling and yeah.
Interesting. So for actors just starting out, how would you advise them to kind of begin to understand the business aspect, like you were saying there earlier?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so I suppose educating themselves, especially if they're not represented, do you know what I mean? Finding out and asking. Like, I'm very happy to give people information. If somebody's starting out and they're not represented, or if somebody is starting out as an agent for that matter and has never done this before, I've had both. The agent come to me and go, you know what, I'm starting, can you explain how all of this works? Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're educated, that makes my job easier. And also, it's not rocket science, so I would say find out what the minimum dailies rates are, generally what it all means, what you'd expect to be offered, and an actor will tell you that, like, very easily. It's just reference to kind of contract, so that you're not looking at something and going, that's just a load of maths that I don't understand, because it really is pretty transparent. And when the producers come to an agreement, which they have with the agents, for example, it's all there, and and that's what's great for us, because I know exactly where I can start and where I can get to within a budget that's a certain level. It's probably comforting for actors to know that if somebody from our company casts them in a job, we will never be paying anything that's in any way below or dodgy. Or now, that said, if an actor for experience wants to go into a student film, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that's their business, and that's sort of outside the kind of union-y stuff, but that's experience, and who wouldn't do that? Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer. Okay. So what tips go for actors going into auditions?
I would say always read the script. If you're given it, always, even twice. Do you know what I mean? You need to even if you're going for the waitress, know who the director is, know their work. It's very simple. Ireland's small, and that's, I can only speak from our side of things, but if you're going in for an audition with Lenny Abrahamson or Darren Thornton or John Carney, it's very easy to get their work. Do you know what I mean? It's very accessible. So know what you're coming in for, know who you're coming into, learn your lines. It's not a case in film of sort of knowing them because you have to be able to take direction. It's knowing them entirely and being able to take direction, because you're on camera and I don't need you looking at the sides. Do you know what I mean? Now, obviously within reason, I'm not asking you to, it's not a test, do you know what I mean? But I need you to be dressed correctly, I need you to be on it, I need you to be in a good present space, I need you to come in as though it's a meeting, bring as much background work into it as I've done, and you will put yourself in a very good spot.
Preparation.
That's it.
Okay, that's it. That's all from WFT. Lovely job.
Deadly.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Excellent.
This podcast was brought to you by Film Ireland in partnership with Women in Film and Television Ireland.